No, honestly, why I am interested in this is because it is it is uncalled for God's sake. Drug trafficking goes both ways. Why do you have to punish someone to the extent of taking the person's life because he's caught up, excuse me, he or she was was caught up in drug trafficking. Now, trafficking, there are so many dynamics to it. In my own judgment, first, before I say this, before someone would think I am probably I'm into that. The truth is, I am in an environment where drug is just is the order of the day. But the truth is, surprisingly, even to me, not too surprising because of my lifestyle. Honestly, I don't even know how. I only see it on movies. I don't even know how this cocaine or whatever, any kind of drug, how they look. The only way I know I know how they look. I found out how they look is on TV. So the truth is, I've never seen it. I'm in an environment where it's a common stuff, but honestly, not for whatever reason, for a reason that I'm aware of, my lifestyle, I don't club, I don't socialize, so I'm an indoor person, so I don't go to places where you see such thing. I've never been to places like that. So that is just it. I need to clear this, but because I'm going to be on, I may be on the side of the drug traffickers for objective reason. Now, the truth is, I don't see the reason why one's life should be taken because he or she was caught with drugs, illicit drugs. Honestly, it doesn't make sense to me because it takes two to tango. Now, I know in Nigeria, you correct me if I'm wrong, barrister, our law, the criminal law, deals with both sides when it comes to a thief who stole something and sold it to a buyer, to someone. That our law incriminates both the buyer, both the seller and the buyer. Am I right?
Yeah, we call the person who the property is sold to as the receiver of stolen goods.
Yeah,
so
but
a receiver of stolen goods is also a criminal.
Good. Yeah. Now, I expect the same thing to be applied here. The same principle, the same law. Because if you are, it takes two to look. If people don't buy these drugs, the sellers will not traffic it. That is my point. And besides, anybody taking drug is a choice. Like, unfortunately, in the US, drug addiction, they don't consider it a crime. They don't arrest people who take drugs. Unfortunately, addicted people. In fact, they refer to them as patients. So anybody that is addicted to drugs, they refer to them in the US as patients, as someone that is sick. But which is, to me, it is preposterous. That does the truth. It doesn't make sense to me, for God's sake. This is because these people are adults. They decided to do this. So they are the buyers. The sellers, if they don't buy, the sellers will not sell to them. So why killing the person why killing the person who sells and the person who it actually encourages or a kind of encourages the seller to sell to him or her, goes scot-free. And probably in some climes, just like the US, they are considered as patients, people you should sympathize with, people you should empathize with, people you should treat with a kind of care. Please, it doesn't make sense to me, sort of. And besides, honestly, I don't. Anytime I hear drug barons or drug traffickers being killed, sent on death row for trafficking drugs, honestly, it is to me, it is just, it is not fair. I think that's the right word. It is not fair. There are people there are so many crimes, especially in Nigeria. The looters for public funds, that is what I actually expect them. I expect from Nigeria, like what is obtainable in the Asian countries, some of these Asian countries, like Singapore, and which other country that has death? I think China also has death penalty for, and Japan too has death penalty for corrupt officials, corrupt public officials. So that is what because both sides involves lives, because corrupt officials, they take money, they siphon money meant for public use, probably money meant for roads, money meant for hospitals. People die from road accidents because of bad roads. People die in our hospitals due to poor facilities, a sort of our shortfalls in facilities, expected facilities. And so facilities that are supposed to be there or whatever, people, instead of the money used for that, it was supposed to be used to get these facilities taken care of, people siphon the money. So as a result, people die. So both sides, it's about life. The drug addicts or drug whatever that takes overdose or take the much higher dose and eventually kill themselves or whatever, it's the same thing. They die. People who were or are deprived of necessities of life from their governments, that out of this deprivation, they equally die. It's the same thing. So why can't we hold these evil people at the same level of corruption? That is my point. Why focusing on the drug traffickers? For me, I don't see that law being justifiable in any shape or form. Barrister, please, I've talked, I didn't expect to actually say this much. Please go ahead. What's your thought on this?
Yeah. First of all, I want to say that death penalty as a penalty for crime is a subject of worldwide discussion. There is a movement throughout the world to oppose the imposition of death penalty on any offense, including murder. It's a very strong movement throughout the world, and most countries have bought into it and have abolished the death penalty altogether for every offense. It's a pressure group. They are continuing. They go from country to country to try to pressure the country to abolish death penalty altogether on what they term as higher humanitarian considerations. Now, they have not been able to succeed in many parts of the world. A lot of the countries of the world, like Europe and other countries, have bought into the abolition of the death penalty. But if you go to some Asian and mostly Arab and Islamic countries, the death penalty is firmly in place and being implemented. In Nigeria, there's death penalty for offenses of murder for now. Now, coming to the issue of drugs, I completely align with you in two respects. Number one, the offense does not rise to a death penalty offense. And number two, it is not a priority, it is not our priority as a nation, because we have some other priorities. What I mean is that the legislative body or the government tackles the problems of the country in the order of their priorities. If you now use the heaviest criminal sentence that can be applied to something that is not is marginally obstructive to your national development, what are you going to reserve for something that has the highest effect on the nation?
That's the point. Good point.
In Nigeria today, the most destructive element that is impeding our development, that is impeding our progress, that's impeding our unity is corruption. And one would have expected that if we really want to tackle issues with the highest penalty, we will start with corruption.
That is it.
But you and me know that it is practically impossible, because those senators that are passing the laws are part of the corruption.
Yeah.
So you cannot pass a law against yourself or pass a law to make punishment against yourself. If that law is passed, we will not end up having a Senate. We will not end up having a House of Reps. Even the whole presidency, everybody will run away if it were to be implemented.
Yeah.
Because if you take the percentage of corruption, to me, is more than 90%. And is perpetrated mostly by public officials who are in the Senate, in the House of Reps, who are ministers, who are governors. So if that law were to be passed, not for jesting, but as a serious issue to be implemented, the whole system of government in Nigeria will collapse. Nobody will take that position again.
Yeah.
So you can see from where I'm coming from, you leave what most concerns us and go to something that is marginally obstructive. Nigeria does not have such a drug problem as to use the big hammer of death penalty. Secondly, most of these drugs that they are talking about, Nigeria is only a transit point. The main drugs, cocaine, the other ones, these heavy drugs, they are mainly transited through Nigeria to Europe and Asia. However, we acknowledge that there's an increasing incidence of consumption of these strong and illicit drugs in Nigeria. It's an increasing incidence. However, I do not see and I do not believe that it has risen to the level where we will use the big hammer of death penalty to resolve it. Secondly, the death penalty does not resolve anything.
That is it.
Research has shown that even death penalty for murder has not stopped murders being committed. So emphasis is on rehabilitation. Nigeria that is good at copying. You know, when the United States transited to correctional facility instead of prison.
Honestly, I don't know.
Nigeria has done the same. We have done the same. The name of our prison this year has been changed to correctional facility. But they do it on paper without addressing the underlying ideology behind it.
Yeah, that is it.
The whole ideology behind it is that some prisoners need these facilities
counseling
to be counseled and rehabilitated to rejoin the society as credible citizens. But as far as Nigeria is concerned, you change the name and you go and sit. Nothing else is done to build up that ideology to actually go into that rehabilitation. The facilities are not there, the personnel are not there, the will to do that is not there.
Yeah.
So death penalty does not stop. It will not stop the drug trafficking for another reason. The simple fact is that there's homologous amount of money to be made from drug trafficking. And in human affairs, wherever or whenever the profit to be made is so high, even death penalty cannot stop people from doing it. Because if you hit once, you are done for. So whether they put the death penalty or not, it is so attractive and the profits are so huge that the death penalty will not serve as a deterrent to the drug pushing. So if we should sit and research or think the problem very well, that is not the road to go. That is not the road to go. We have the drug agency. We have other security agencies tackling the problem. We also have the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency to tackle the problem. They should reinvent their strategy in preventing and reducing incidences of drug trafficking and application. And then finally, there must be a categorization of the drugs. As you are aware, in the US now, a lot of states have legalized the consumption of marijuana. Elsewhere in Europe and other parts of the world,
very few states for now.
Yes, it is a trend. It's a trend that is ongoing. That marijuana is used in medical science, in hospitals for reduction of pain, as pain relief and other things. And in many countries, they have decriminalized its consumption. So if you are talking of death penalty, and you include a generic term of drug, and marijuana is also a drug. These other ones that are coming, so we have to be careful to find out which drugs are liable to death penalty. I am a proponent of death penalty. I have never supported the idea that death penalty should be abolished altogether. I have firmly supported that some instances, some crimes deserve death penalty.
Yeah.
And being that I'm a lawyer in the profession for many decades, I have seen cases of wanton and brutal murders. I have never been an advocate of abolishing the death penalty. I continue to affirm that a lot of cases of murder deserve the death penalty.
Yeah.
Now, having said that, when the death penalty is in place, the governor must sign a warrant before the person is executed. That's after you have been convicted, you are on the death row. The governor of the state where you are serving must sign a death warrant, the certificate that you should be executed. From our practice here, hardly will you see a governor sign a death warrant. In the past 20 years, you cannot name up to 100 cases in 20 years where governors have signed death warrants.
Wow.
So that leaves these people on death row in the prisons for almost 20 years, 30 years.
Wow. Really? Up to that number of years?
Yes. People who were convicted and sentenced to death are there on death row in the prisons because the governors have not signed the death warrant.
Why are they not signing it?
Like I said, there is a lot of pressure internationally to abolish the death penalty. It's even some countries make it a part of their requirement for rendering assistance to less developed countries that you must abolish the death penalty. So the governors, and there's a difference. During the military regime, you'll find that death sentences are signed much more frequently. But in this political era, the governors have better things to think about. They don't pay attention to the people on death row. So hardly, there are governors that have been there for 8 years. They have not signed one single death warrant. So we have these things that are there for murder. Now you want to extend it, which is not even being implemented properly, and which is not stopping the same offense. You now want to shift it to a lesser offense. What is the rationale? We do things here without research and adequate study. That's the problem. Elsewhere, before they do that, they will do a lot of studies of the effect, the pros and cons of such a thing, and try to find other ways to minimize the situation or the crime. But in Nigeria, we can wake up one day and say, okay, maybe the son of a powerful person was killed by a drug-induced person. Then the next thing, okay, we go and put death penalty for that. That is the way we react to situations instead of doing in-depth and adequate study before providing solutions. So altogether, I am not in support of such death penalty. I recall that during Buhari's time as a military head of state, 2 people were executed on account of drug trafficking, where a decree was made and promulgated retroactively.
Wow.
Whereby at the time they committed the offense, it was not, the punishment was not a death penalty. But the decree was hit and 2 people were sentenced to death and executed during Buhari's military leadership. And there was a big uproar in the country against that. And it's one of the things that some of us used to hold against him even till today. So we have to understand that a society do not act on sentiments, do not act on the spur of the moment. We must research, we must study things, present it for debate. People will talk about it, a lot of comments throughout the country will synthesize the opinions before.
All right. Thank you so much for that. I think just like you said, that is just it. That kind of crime does not warrant a death penalty. Let's move to the next topic. Yeah, let's talk about CBN, the new CBN policy that we're told will take effect from, is it September? I think 3 months time or thereabout, September, August or September, or whatever, or thereabout. What is your take on this? I think I have a thought, but let me hear from you.
Well, my thought is what I have always been saying. When you come to power without an economic, a well thought out economic agenda, you begin to grope from here to there, like somebody groping in the dark, trying to find something. You now see that you have not found it. Then you begin to take other steps. This is a form of taxation. And if you look at the Nigerian situation today, even if you are not an economist, you ask yourself whether an economy that is already down should be labored with more taxes. People are in serious suffering. They are not able to meet up their basic life. Then you are going from one taxation to the other. You increase the petroleum energy prices by 300%, skyrocketing the cost of living. You do the
Electricity.
same in the electric in the power sector. Now you are looking for you are going to another angle, that the bank transfers. Now you come into what they call the Cyber Security Act. They amended the act recently to insert this provision inside. I now see that one Senator Ndume was saying that he did not see that thing when it was presented for amendment. This provision of extracting money from bank accounts, that if he had seen it, he would have objected to it. Well, by and large, nobody is quarreling with the Cyber Security Act. But this provision was amended into it to extract money from transfers. With this present situation now, if you are making any transfer and people are making transfers in their millions every day, 0.5% of that transaction is to be deducted by the banks and sent to the Cybersecurity Fund, which is administered by the National Security Advisor. Before I go forward, let me say that it is not said to be or to come in effect in September. Actually, the CBN issued a circular to all the banks to begin the implementation of that immediately. It is the outcry from Nigerians that made them to say, okay, let's not start, we'll start it sometimes in September. As we speak, the National Assembly has passed a resolution urging the CBN to suspend the implementation of that policy. But again, the Nigerian factor, the transparency, from available research, it appears that if this levy is implemented, the funds accruing to the Office of the National Security Advisor or under his control from this levy alone will be in the region of 400 and something billion monthly.
Wow.
And they are to be under the control of the National Security Advisor. This itself will violate the Constitution, because all revenues of the Federation are to go into the Federation account for the purposes of sharing among the states and the federal government and the local government. And this is always done. And then the budgeting for the federal government is done by the National Assembly. The funds controlled by the security agencies, not just the National Security Advisor, you are talking of the army, the police, and this thing. They are strictly controlled by them. The auditing is not from any other source, but from the federal government body, the executive. So you have the executive having this fund in hundreds of billions monthly, disbursing them, using them without accountability. That is the angle that nobody is talking about. How do you wake up one day and put 400 and something billion monthly of revenue in the hands of the National Security Advisor?
Did you say 400? Hold on, 400 and something or 100 and something?
400 and something billion.
Wow.
That is what is estimated to be raised from the levy
monthly.
On a monthly basis.
Almost half a trillion. Wow.
Yes, on a monthly basis, not yearly.
Wow.
How do you come to put that kind of money in the hands of an unelected official who is not even accountable to the National Assembly in terms of the expenditure of that money?
Wow.
You are not going to see the National Assembly summon the Chief of Army Staff or this thing to say, okay, this money we appropriated to the defense, how did you spend it? The national security agencies don't go through that that path. So people should be asking, what is the purpose and intent of dragging this humongous amount of money to the office of the National Security Advisor? Are we trying to create a fund for political use going forward or for some other use? This thing should agitate the minds of Nigerians. So for now, I do not see any credible reason. Government is always looking for revenue, but you don't, number one, you don't overtax people that are already desperate, are already struggling. You have increased their cost of living. You have not increased their income, but you are increasing their taxes. You are increasing this one for them. You are going to drive people to the wall. And if this trend continues, I don't know what will happen to this country.
Wow. This is mind-blowing. Honestly, you just got me informed now, because I didn't know this. I didn't know that this fund is actually supposed to go to the National Security Advisor's office. That's just the truth. Honestly, this is unbelievable, unbelievable. Now, you pointed out this issue of Bola Tinubu not prepared for this presidency. You've been laying serious emphasis on this, and I totally agree with you. And this whole thing just proves me right in my assertion that Tinubu does not have any good interest or intention for Nigeria, and that is just it. He's not interested in doing the right thing. It does not. The last time we talked about this, he does not have the capacity, the ability to. It is not in his DNA to do the right thing. Everything in Bola Tinubu's DNA is about selfishness, self-aggrandizement. It's just about himself and the people around him. I don't get it. I've said it earlier that this man is just out to punish this country, punish us. That's just the truth. He's just out to punish us. Just like you noted earlier, the economy is in shambles. Apart from the economy itself, individually, people are languishing in poverty, in deprivations. Everything is just going south. Everything that has to do with livelihood in Nigeria is going south. Everything that has to do with the necessities, the essentials of life, the day-to-day need for life, they are just going south. Upon this, you came up, removed subsidy, even though the subsidy is not removed, as far as based on what we already found out that it is still there, but they are telling us it's been removed, thereby charging it on us. Now, fuel is between 600 and 1,000 naira per liter. Now, beyond that again, they increased electricity tariff. And now you are bringing this again. What other proof do we need to confirm that Bola Tinubu is not only not ready to lead, does not have good intention for Nigeria and Nigerians, But also, he's really out to punish Nigerians because we did not vote for him. He is, and this is two-edged sword here. He wasn't prepared for this. He came in for personal aggrandizement, for personal enrichment. And secondly, because he was not voted into power, he bulldozed himself to power. He seemed to be, he took it personal. That is my own conspiracy theory. Conspiracy theory, yeah. He took it personal, and hence he decided to punish Nigerians. What other way can someone interpret this? That this man is not really out to, that how can you dissuade me or convince me that this is not his intention to punish Nigerians? No sane person will do this nonsense. Nobody that has blood, a human being that has blood flowing through his or her vein, shouldn't see a worse situation and even act further to make the situation even more precarious. That is the point. You can imagine, I said it earlier, now this month, this whole fund, about 400-something billion monthly, going to Nuhu Ribadu. Can you imagine that? I said it earlier that these people, this man has just, it's a conglomerate of looters coming together individually, coming together to individually amass wealth for themselves and their cronies. Everybody, what they're doing now, politicians are doing now, everybody just taking his own department and taking his share. It's just sharing. I mentioned this earlier when Tinubu won the election. Sorry, when Tinubu bulldozed himself to the seat of power, I said that this is exactly what will happen. They are just coming to share. Look at what happened with I don't know if you heard the story about the speaker too. It's not speaker. The Femi Gbajabiamila, former speaker, was chief of staff, about what a journalist under that investigated some kind of funds or whatever contract that was supposed to be, that runs into huge, humongous amount. I think multiple billions, of hundreds of billions of naira. What do you expect? Everyone, that is exactly what everyone around Tinubu does now. Everybody is just taking his portion of corruption and going home with it. That's just it. For God's sake, why do you have to impoverish? Now, you have 10 million, you are transferring 10 million, you'll be paid from nowhere, 50,000 naira goes to that, for that. You transfer 100 million, about 500,000. For what? I don't understand why we should even be paying for cybersecurity. This is the federal government's responsibility. Why do we have to be charged? Government raises money through several sources of revenue, which includes taxing of virtually everything. Everything is taxed. You buy fuel. Fuel is technically by default. Everyone, as long as you use fuel, as long as you buy things, as long as you make purchases in any form of purchase, you are already taxed. Everything is taxed. You may not see it yourself, but anything you are buying, either buying or selling, but of course you buy to sell. So you buy to sell, and sometimes you just buy to use. Anything, as long as you are doing either buying or selling, you are paying taxes, apart from the one that they deduct annually when you file your taxes. So that is just it. We have multiple taxations in the system, huge enough that it is just ripping Nigerians off. Yet you are adding this to the already multiple taxes. This is unbelievable. Honestly, it is just unbelievable. They are just fleecing us. They are just fleecing us. That is just or it's I don't know why Nigerians. I don't know when Nigerians will say enough is enough. We are so adaptive to any situation, and that is not good. There are times it is good. Personally, on personal ground, it is good when you meet challenge, you have to adapt. You have to adapt to be able to pass through the challenge or whatever. But when it comes to national, for national, excuse me, when it comes to national implication, it's a very it's supposed to be a virtue, but when it comes to national implication, honestly, it's a vice, because this thing is eating us up. Where everybody
you continue to ask every time, you continue to ask why Nigerians are quiet, why Nigerians are docile.
Yes.
You know that the elites and those who hold power, they know the dynamics of power. They know that the more you impoverish a people, the less voice the people will have, the less strength the people will have. Where everybody is so busy looking for his next meal, looking for the next food for his children, or looking for how he will get money to pay his child school fees, there is no time left for him to think about the coming together, for him to sit and think properly so that he can organize with his fellow people suffering to challenge. They don't have that time. All you work up to do is you go to where you will get what you eat for that day, or eat, your children eat. And the people who have power know this. So they are comfortable. What they are not afraid, because it's difficult for an impoverished population to rise up against the government. Very difficult, not impossible though. But it is difficult. They can manipulate the people along different lines.